Imagine waking up in the morning, stretching your arms and deciding, seemingly on your own, that today you'll have coffee instead of tea. Feels like a simple, conscious choice, one that belongs to you and you alone. But what if, long before you even considered reaching for that cup, your brain had already made the decision for you? What if free will, as we understand it, is nothing more than an illusion? Back in the 1980s, neuroscientist Benjamin Libet conducted a series of experiments that changed everything we thought we knew about human choice. He found something unsettling. Before participants even became aware of their decision to move a finger, their brains had already started preparing for the movement. The action wasn't the result of conscious thought. It had been initiated subconsciously, with their awareness arriving just a fraction of a second later. In other words, the brain was ahead of the mind. This discovery raises a disturbing question. If our decisions are being made before we're even aware of them, are we truly in control? Or are we just passengers on a ride, rationalizing choices that were never really ours to begin with? It's even stranger. Studies on subliminal conditioning suggest that external forces, words, images, and even scents, can push us towards specific decisions without us realizing it. Advertisers, for example, have mastered the art of planting ideas in our minds, making us crave products we never actively chose. Supermarkets are designed so that essential items like milk and bread are placed at the far end, forcing you to pass by dozens of other products, each subtly influencing your impulse purchases. You walk out thinking you made a personal choice, but in reality, you were guided toward it. Then there's the power of social conditioning, the invisible hand that molds our preferences, beliefs, and behaviors. From an early age, we're programmed to conform. We adopt the language, customs, and biases of the world around us, often without questioning them. Even the most rebellious among us are shaped by the very systems we believe we're rejecting. So, if our brains make choices before we're aware of them, if corporations nudge us toward behaviors that serve their interests, and if society conditions us into patterns we mistake for independent thought, then how much of our will is truly free? Think about that as you drift into sleep. Are you really in control, or is something else pulling the strings? Imagine a world where your thoughts, desires, and decisions are not entirely your own. A world where unseen puppeteers pull the strings of your mind, guiding you down paths you believe you've chosen freely. This is the unsettling reality of psychological manipulation, a force more powerful than most people realize. Con artists don't rely on threats or brute force. They don't need to. Instead, they prey on emotions, trust, and the gaps in human perception. The best manipulation is invisible. It doesn't feel like manipulation at all. They create a false sense of urgency, forcing decisions before you have time to think. Limited time offers. Only 3 spots left. A plea for help that makes you feel like the only one who can provide it. When the brain is pressured, logic takes a backseat. And by the time the moment passes, the trap has already closed. It's not just con artists. Leaders too use the same psychological tricks, on a much larger scale. The most effective form of control isn't outright oppression. It's making people doubt their own reality. Gaslighting. Repeating lies until they start to sound like truth. Reframing past events so the victim begins to question their own memory. Confusion leads to dependency. The more someone questions their own perception, the easier they are to control. And then there's corporate manipulation, something we experience every single day yet rarely notice. Advertising isn't just about showing products. It's about embedding desire deep into the subconscious. A carefully placed color. A word repeated just enough times. A product positioned at eye level. None of it is random. A bottle of water isn't just water. It's purity, status, a lifestyle. A phone isn't just a phone. It's belonging, identity, validation. The product itself doesn't matter as much as the meaning attached to it. And by the time you think you've made an independent decision, it's already been made for you. Some forms of manipulation are harmless, techniques of persuasion we all use to get what we want. a slight mirroring of body language to build trust, the careful choice of words to steer a conversation in a particular direction. But then there's the kind designed to strip away autonomy. Emotional blackmail, manufactured dependency, shaping an entire belief system to keep people locked in place. The most dangerous part? Most people never realize it's happening. As you drift into sleep, think about today. The choices you made, the impulses you followed. Were they really yours? Or was someone somewhere pulling the strings? Imagine being told you can't do something. Suddenly, that forbidden action becomes all the more enticing, doesn't it? This phenomenon, where denying someone a choice makes them desire it even more, is at the heart of reverse psychology. Psychologists call this psychological reactance, a motivational reaction to restrictions on one's freedom. When we sense our autonomy is threatened, we're driven to reclaim it, often by doing exactly what we're advised against. It's a rebellion against the loss of control, a way to reassert our independence. Marketers and advertisers are keenly aware of this trait. By labeling products as limited edition or exclusive, they tap into our fear of missing out, making items seem more desirable simply because they're scarce. This scarcity principle plays on our innate desire to possess what is rare, driving us to act quickly to secure the coveted item. The allure of the forbidden is deeply rooted in our psychology. When something is off limits, it triggers a sense of deprivation, making us yearn for it even more. This reaction isn't just about the object itself, but about our intrinsic need to maintain freedom of choice. Even in personal relationships, reverse psychology can be a powerful tool. Suggesting someone shouldn't do something can ignite their desire to do exactly that as they strive to assert their autonomy. It's a subtle form of influence, leveraging our natural resistance to being controlled. As you drift into sleep, ponder this: how many of your choices are truly your own, and how many are reactions to the invisible strings of reverse psychology? Imagine a world where your perception of reality is slowly and methodically eroded, where the truths you hold dear are questioned until you're left doubting your own mind. This is the insidious power of gaslighting, a form of psychological manipulation that makes you question the very fabric of your existence. The term gaslighting originates from the 1938 British play, Gaslight, later adapted into a 1944 film. In this story, a husband manipulates his wife into believing she's losing her sanity by subtly dimming their home's gas lights and denying any change when she notices. This deliberate distortion of reality serves as a chilling metaphor for the tactic that now bears its name. In personal relationships, gaslighting manifests through actions that make individuals doubt their own memories, perceptions, or judgments. A partner might deny events, dismiss feelings as overreactions, or reinterpret past incidents to shift blame. Over time, this erodes the victim's confidence, leading to anxiety, depression, and a diminished sense of self-worth. But gaslighting isn't confined to intimate relationships. It permeates broader societal structures. In the workplace, a supervisor might undermine an employee's performance subtly, causing them to question their competence. Culturally, marginalized groups may face systemic gaslighting, where their experiences of discrimination are dismissed or minimized, reinforcing existing power dynamics. The effects of gaslighting are profound. Victims often feel isolated, unable to trust their own minds or seek support, fearing they'll be perceived as unstable. This psychological warfare can lead to long-term mental health issues, including post-traumatic stress disorder and severe depression. As you drift into sleep, consider this: how many of your beliefs are genuinely yours, and how many have been carefully planted by others, making you question your own reality? Imagine you're standing at the edge of a cliff, peering into the abyss below. Your heart races, palms sweat, and every instinct screams to step back. This primal response, fear, has ensured our survival for millennia. Yet, in the modern world, this same instinct is harnessed to influence our decisions in ways we might not even realize. Fear is among the most potent motivators in human psychology. When confronted with perceived threats, our brains prioritize actions that mitigate danger, often overriding rational thought. This mechanism, while protective in life-threatening situations, becomes a tool for influence when strategically employed. In politics, fear-based messaging is a powerful tool. Politicians craft narratives highlighting threats, be it from opposing ideologies, external adversaries, or societal changes, to sway public opinion and drive voter turnout. By amplifying anxieties, they position themselves as protectors against looming dangers, compelling individuals to support them as a means of safeguarding their future. Similarly, marketers exploit fear to drive consumer behavior. Advertisements often emphasize the negative consequences of not using a product or service, creating a sense of urgency. For instance, insurance companies highlight the risks of unforeseen events to encourage policy purchases, while health campaigns underscore the dangers of certain behaviors to promote lifestyle changes. This tactic, known as fear appeal, leverages our aversion to loss and discomfort to steer choices. Beyond individual decisions, fear shapes societal norms and controls. Media outlets may sensationalize events to boost engagement, fostering a culture of fear that influences public perception and policy. Governments might invoke fear to justify surveillance or restrictive laws, asserting that such measures are necessary for collective security. This manipulation of fear ensures compliance and curtails dissent, as challenging authority becomes synonymous with inviting peril. As you drift into sleep, consider this: how many of your choices are driven by genuine desire, and how many are reactions to fears implanted by external forces? In recognizing these influences, we reclaim the power to decide, not out of fear but from true autonomy. Imagine waking up one day to realize that your thoughts, beliefs, and even your identity have been meticulously shaped by forces beyond your awareness. This unsettling reality is the essence of brainwashing, a systematic method of altering minds through conditioning and repetition. The mechanics of mind control. Brainwashing, also known as coercive persuasion, involves techniques designed to manipulate human thought or action against the individual's desire, will, or knowledge. Cults, for instance, often employ these methods to erode personal autonomy and instill unwavering allegiance. By isolating individuals from their previous environments, controlling information, and employing repetitive indoctrination, they reshape identities to align with their doctrines. Governments, too, have delved into the dark science of mind control. During the Cold War, the CIA initiated Project MKUltra, a covert program aiming to explore mind control techniques. Experiments included administering psychoactive substances like LSD to unknowing subjects, attempting to weaken individuals and extract confessions through psychological torture. Media's subtle influence. In contemporary society, the media wields significant power in shaping public perception. Through selective reporting, framing of narratives, and repetitive messaging, media outlets can influence societal beliefs and attitudes. This subtle form of conditioning can lead to widespread acceptance of specific ideologies or viewpoints, often without the public's conscious realization. Notorious instances of mass brainwashing. One of the most infamous examples is the case of Patty Hearst, the heiress kidnapped by the Symbionese Liberation Army in 1974. Through isolation and coercive persuasion, she was transformed from captive to collaborator, participating in criminal activities alongside her captors. Another chilling instance is the indoctrination of North Korean citizens. From a young age, individuals are subjected to relentless propaganda, portraying their leaders as infallible and the outside world as hostile. This lifelong conditioning fosters unwavering loyalty and a distorted perception of reality. In the realm of cults, Leaders often utilize mind control techniques to maintain dominance over their followers. By exploiting psychological vulnerabilities, they create environments where questioning is suppressed, and dissent is met with severe consequences. As you drift into sleep, consider this: how much of what you believe is truly your own, and how much has been subtly implanted by unseen hands. The line between influence and control is thin, and the architects of manipulation are masters at blurring it. Imagine you're in a room with 7 others, presented with a simple task: matching the length of a line to one of 3 options. The answer is obvious, yet as each person before you confidently chooses an incorrect line, doubt creeps in. Do you trust your own eyes, or do you align with the group, questioning your own judgment? This scenario mirrors the famous experiments by psychologist Solomon Asch in the 1950s, revealing a profound truth about human nature: our deep-seated inclination to conform. Asch discovered that individuals would often forsake their own correct perceptions to align with a unanimous group, even when the group's choice was blatantly wrong. This tendency isn't merely about agreeing with others. It's about an inherent desire to belong, to fit in, and to avoid the discomfort of standing alone. Peer pressure operates subtly, guiding our behaviors, beliefs, and decisions without overt coercion. It's the unspoken understanding that deviation from the norm might lead to social exclusion or ridicule. The danger intensifies with groupthink, a psychological phenomenon where the desire for harmony within a group leads to irrational or dysfunctional decision-making. In such scenarios, critical thinking is sacrificed, and dissenting opinions are suppressed, all in the name of consensus. This collective tunnel vision has been implicated in historical fiascos, from flawed business strategies to misguided governmental policies. Our craving for conformity stems from evolutionary roots. Early humans relied on group cohesion for survival. Being part of a tribe meant protection and resources. This ancestral need persists today, manifesting as an instinctual urge to align with those around us. As you drift into sleep, consider this: how often have your choices been a reflection of your true desires, and how often have they been molded by the invisible hands of peer pressure and the yearning to belong? Imagine standing in a crowd, surrounded by thousands, all eyes fixed on a single individual. This person speaks, and the atmosphere electrifies. Their words resonate deeply, stirring emotions and inspiring action. What is it about certain individuals that grants them this magnetic pull over the masses? Charismatic leaders possess an uncanny ability to connect with people on an emotional level. Their influence often stems from a combination of innate traits and learned behaviors that captivate and motivate others. One key aspect is their intense commitment to their work, which evokes strong emotions from their followers, fostering devotion and action. Moreover, these leaders skillfully employ persuasion techniques that appeal more to emotions and intuition than to logic. Research indicates that the world's greatest leaders use approximately 2.9 times more appeals to emotion and 3.4 times more appeals to intuition compared to logic. By tapping into the audience's feelings and gut instincts, they create a sense of shared purpose and vision. However, it's essential to recognize that while charisma can inspire and unify, an excess of it may hinder a leader's effectiveness. Studies suggest that a moderate level of charisma is important, but too much can be detrimental. This balance ensures that leaders remain relatable and grounded, avoiding the pitfalls of overconfidence or detachment from their followers. As you reflect on the power of charismatic leaders, consider how their unique blend of personal conviction, emotional intelligence, and persuasive communication shapes the world around us. Their ability to inspire and influence is a testament to the profound impact of human connection and the art of leadership. Imagine stepping into a grand courtroom. The defendant, dressed in a well-tailored suit, stands before the jury, his posture strong, his face calm. The moment you see him, something shifts in your mind. He looks respectable, trustworthy, intelligent. Without realizing it, you've already formed an opinion about his character before he's even spoken a single word. This is the halo effect in action, a psychological shortcut that causes our brains to assume that if someone excels in one area, they must be exceptional in others too. And it influences far more of our lives than we think. We like to believe we judge people based on facts, but in reality, first impressions dictate much of what follows. Studies show that attractive people are often assumed to be smarter, kinder, and more competent than their less attractive peers. A well-groomed, confident individual is more likely to be trusted, promoted, or given leadership roles, not necessarily because they're more qualified, but because we instinctively associate positive traits with their polished appearance. Think about it. Would you be more likely to accept financial advice from a sharp-dressed professional in a sleek office, or from someone in a wrinkled hoodie sitting in a cluttered basement? This bias extends beyond the workplace. In relationships, it dictates who we find charming, who we overlook, and who we pursue. We assume that a physically attractive person must also have a great personality, making it easier to forgive their flaws while scrutinizing others more harshly. It explains why celebrities, often admired for their looks or talents, are sometimes placed on moral pedestals, only for scandals to reveal the stark contrast between perception and reality. The halo effect isn't just personal, it shapes society itself. In criminal trials, an attractive defendant is more likely to receive a lighter sentence than someone perceived as less physically appealing. Studies have shown that jurors are more lenient toward well-dressed, charismatic individuals, even when the evidence suggests otherwise. Similarly, politicians who look the part, tall, confident, commanding, often gain more trust and votes regardless of their policies. We want our leaders to appear strong, decisive, and put together, even if that image is nothing more than a carefully crafted illusion. Now consider the flip side, the reverse halo effect, also known as the horns effect. If someone possesses a single negative trait, we tend to assume the worst about them overall. A person who stumbles over their words in an interview might be judged as incompetent. A celebrity caught in one scandal might be perceived as entirely corrupt. One flaw, one bad impression can overshadow everything else. The real question is, how much of what you believe about others is based on reality, and how much is just an illusion created by your brain's shortcuts? As you drift into sleep, think about all the people you've met, all the faces you've judged at first glance. Were your instincts right, or were you just another victim of the halo effect? Imagine walking through a crowded market when a vendor suddenly hands you a free sample. You weren't planning on buying anything, but now, with that small taste lingering on your tongue, you feel a strange sense of obligation. Minutes later, you find yourself purchasing something you never intended to buy, simply because it all started with something free. There's something about the word free that hijacks the human brain. Rationally, we should evaluate a product based on its usefulness, price, and necessity. But the moment something is labeled as free, logic takes a backseat. We don't just like free things, we overvalue them. Studies show that when given a choice between a heavily discounted product and one that is completely free, people overwhelmingly choose the free one, even if the discounted option is of far higher quality. The mere absence of cost tricks the brain into assigning an exaggerated level of importance. It's not just about getting something for nothing. Receiving a free item activates the brain's reward system, flooding it with dopamine, the same chemical responsible for feelings of pleasure, satisfaction, and addiction. That's why even something as insignificant as a free pen or a free app download can feel oddly exciting. And it's also why companies use the illusion of free to make us spend more than we ever intended. Marketers understand that the moment you receive something free, you feel a subconscious obligation to reciprocate. That free sample at the supermarket? It increases the likelihood that you'll make a purchase, even if you weren't hungry. The free trial for a subscription service? By the time it ends, you've already adjusted to having it, making you far more likely to continue paying. Free giveaways. They create emotional attachment, leading people to overvalue the brand and become loyal customers. But free isn't always free. In the digital world, the cost of free services is often your data. Free social media platforms collect detailed behavioral insights, feeding algorithms designed to keep you engaged for as long as possible. The real currency isn't money. It's your time, attention, and personal information. So the next time you see something labeled as free, ask yourself, what's the real cost? Because in the end, free might just be the most expensive thing you'll ever pay for. Imagine walking into a store and there, gleaming under the spotlight, is the latest must-have gadget. A small sign reads, "Only 2 left in stock." Suddenly your heart races. You weren't even considering a purchase today, but now the thought of missing out is unbearable. This is the scarcity principle at work. A psychological phenomenon where limited availability increases an item's perceived value and desirability. This principle isn't just about physical products. It permeates various aspects of our lives. Marketers have long harnessed scarcity to drive consumer behavior. Phrases like limited time offer or exclusive release create a sense of urgency, compelling us to act swiftly lest we miss out. For instance, online retailers often display low stock warnings, such as "only 3 items left," nudging customers toward immediate purchases. The allure of the scarce taps into our deep-seated fear of missing out, FOMO. When we perceive that an opportunity is slipping away, our desire to seize it intensifies. This reaction isn't solely about the item's inherent value but rather its perceived exclusivity. Consider luxury brands that release limited edition products. The scarcity not only elevates the item's status but also the owner's, fostering a sense of pride and distinction. Social exclusivity further amplifies this effect. Being part of an elite group or having access to restricted events makes the experience more coveted. Clubs with membership waitlists or events labeled as invite only become more desirable precisely because they're not easily attainable. This exclusivity creates a psychological itch, a yearning to belong to the select few. However, the scarcity principle isn't without its pitfalls. Artificial scarcity can backfire, leading to consumer skepticism. For example, if a brand consistently markets products as limited edition, but frequently restocks them, customers may feel manipulated, eroding trust. Authenticity is key. Genuine scarcity fosters desire, while contrived limitations can breed resentment. As you drift into sleep, ponder this. How often have your choices been swayed by the ticking clock of a sale or the allure of an exclusive offer? Are your desires truly your own, or are they carefully orchestrated by the subtle art of scarcity? Imagine walking into a doctor's office, struggling with chronic pain. The doctor hands you a small, white pill and tells you it's a breakthrough medication that will ease your suffering. You take it and within days the pain begins to fade. But what if that pill contained nothing but sugar? No active ingredients, no actual medicine, just the power of suggestion working its way through your mind and body. This is the placebo effect, one of the strangest and most fascinating tricks of the human brain. It's proof that belief alone can trigger real, measurable physical changes. Studies have shown that when patients believe they're receiving actual treatment, their symptoms improve, even when the treatment is completely fake. Pain subsides. Heart rates stabilize. Even depression symptoms lift. It's as if the body follows the mind's expectations, healing itself simply because it thinks it's supposed to. It's even weirder. Researchers have conducted sham surgeries, procedures where doctors go through the motions of performing an operation but never actually do anything. Patients still recover. They report less pain, improved mobility, even better health outcomes, all because their brains have been tricked into thinking they underwent a real procedure. In one study, knee surgery patients who received a fake operation reported just as much pain relief as those who had the real thing. And it doesn't stop at medicine. The placebo effect leaks into everyday life, shaping how we experience reality in ways we don't even notice. Think about energy drinks. If a label says, extra strength, you expect to feel a bigger boost, so you do. If a wine bottle has an expensive price tag, it tastes better to you, even if it's the same cheap wine poured into a fancy bottle. Expectation creates experience. It's the same reason people swear by miracle skincare products or performance-enhancing wristbands. Their belief in the product amplifies the effects, making them feel real, even when science says otherwise. The human brain is so susceptible to suggestion that the placebo effect works even when you know you're taking a placebo. That's right. If someone tells you, this is just a sugar pill but it helps people feel better, you're still likely to experience benefits. And here's where it gets truly unsettling. Imagine reality as a giant magic trick, where your expectations shape the illusion around you. It's like staring at a locked door, believing there's no way through, only to find that the key was in your pocket the entire time. The world isn't always what it seems, it's what you expect it to be. So, as you drift into sleep, think about this. How much of your life is real? And how much of it is simply what you believe it to be? Imagine a door-to-door salesperson knocking at your door. They don't immediately launch into a pitch to sell you an expensive vacuum cleaner. Instead, they start with a simple question. May I come in to demonstrate how this cleaning tip can make your life easier? This small request, once granted, paves the way for a larger one: purchasing the vacuum cleaner. This tactic is known as the foot-in-the-door technique, a powerful method of persuasion where agreeing to a minor request increases the likelihood of agreeing to a more significant one later. This technique operates on the principle of consistency. Once individuals commit to a small action, they are more inclined to maintain a consistent self-image by complying with larger requests. For instance, in a classic study, homeowners who agreed to place a small "Be a Safe Driver" sign in their windows were later more willing to install a large, unsightly "Drive Carefully" billboard on their lawns. The initial small commitment made them more amenable to the subsequent larger one. Marketers and sales professionals frequently employ this strategy. A customer might be encouraged to accept a free sample, a small request, which can lead to purchasing the full product, a larger request. Similarly, subscription services often offer free trials, knowing that users who commit to the trial are more likely to continue with a paid subscription. The foot-in-the-door technique extends beyond sales into areas like recruitment and even coercive persuasion. In some high-pressure environments, individuals are first asked to perform minor tasks. Over time, these tasks escalate, leading them to undertake actions they might have initially resisted. This gradual escalation can result in significant shifts in behavior and belief, sometimes without the individual fully realizing the extent of their compliance. Understanding this technique sheds light on the subtle ways our decisions can be influenced. Recognizing when we're being led through incremental commitments can empower us to make more conscious choices, ensuring that our actions align with our true intentions rather than external manipulations. As you drift into sleep, consider how often you've taken the first small step, only to find yourself on a path you hadn't anticipated. Like a gentle nudge setting a domino effect in motion, the foot-in-the-door technique reminds us that even the smallest agreements can lead to significant commitments. Imagine you're at a comedy show and the audience erupts in laughter. Even if the joke wasn't particularly funny, you find yourself chuckling along. This phenomenon, where we mirror the behaviors of those around us, is rooted in a psychological principle known as social proof. Social proof is our inherent tendency to conform to the actions and opinions of others, especially in uncertain situations. It's a survival mechanism. Historically, aligning with the group increased our chances of safety and acceptance. Marketers and media producers have long exploited this trait. Laugh tracks in sitcoms, for instance, serve as cues, signaling when we should find something amusing. Even if the content isn't particularly humorous, The artificial laughter prompts viewers to laugh along, enhancing their overall enjoyment. Similarly, fake reviews on e-commerce platforms create an illusion of product popularity and quality. When potential buyers see numerous positive testimonials, they're more likely to trust and purchase the item, even if those reviews are fabricated. Fabricated trends further illustrate the dark side of social proof. When media outlets or influencers promote a particular behavior or product as the latest craze, people often adopt it without critical evaluation, simply to align with perceived societal norms. This blind conformity can be likened to a flock of sheep following one another without knowing the destination. While following the crowd can offer comfort and a sense of belonging, it also carries the risk of leading us away from our authentic preferences and judgments. As you drift into sleep, ponder this. How often do you make choices based on your genuine desires, and how often are you merely echoing the crowd? Imagine you own a simple coffee mug. To an outsider, it might be worth a couple of dollars. But to you, it's special, perhaps because of its color, shape, or the memories associated with it. This phenomenon, where we assign greater value to items simply because we own them, is known as the endowment effect. This psychological bias leads individuals to overvalue their possessions, often beyond their market worth. For instance, someone might demand a higher price to sell a concert ticket they own than they would be willing to pay for an identical ticket. This disparity arises from the emotional attachment and sense of ownership we develop toward our belongings. Marketers and brands have harnessed the power of the endowment effect to foster consumer loyalty and drive sales. By creating a sense of ownership before an actual purchase, they tap into this bias. Free trials, for example, allow consumers to own a service temporarily, making them more likely to commit financially afterward. Similarly, customization options like monogramming or personalized designs enhance the feeling of ownership, increasing the item's perceived value. This effect isn't limited to physical products. Subscription services often offer the first month free, knowing that once users incorporate the service into their routines, they'll perceive it as part of their lives, making cancellation less likely. By allowing consumers to experience the benefits firsthand, companies leverage the endowment effect to retain customers. Understanding the endowment effect reveals how our sense of ownership can cloud objective judgment, leading us to overvalue what we possess. Recognizing this bias can empower consumers to make more informed decisions and help businesses ethically foster genuine connections with their audience. As you reflect on your possessions, consider this. Do you value them for their utility and objective worth, or has the mere fact of ownership amplified their significance in your eyes? Imagine a novice chess player who, after learning the basic moves, believes they're ready to challenge a grandmaster. This overestimation of one's abilities despite limited knowledge exemplifies the Dunning-Kruger effect, a cognitive bias where individuals with low competence in a domain overrate their own skills. This phenomenon arises because those lacking expertise often don't possess the metacognitive ability to recognize their deficiencies. In other words, they don't know enough to know what they don't know. This lack of self-awareness leads them to make inaccurate self-assessments, resulting in unwarranted confidence. Conversely, individuals with high competence may underestimate their abilities, assuming tasks that are easy for them are easy for others as well. This misjudgment can prevent them from recognizing their own expertise, leading to a paradox where the knowledgeable doubt themselves while the uninformed remain overly assured. This bias has significant implications. In professional settings, overconfident individuals may ascend to positions beyond their capabilities, leading to poor decision-making. Their confidence can be mistaken for competence, influencing hiring and promotion processes. Moreover, overconfidence can have serious consequences in various fields. For example, in the medical field, practitioners who overestimate their knowledge may make critical errors, compromising patient safety. Similarly, in finance, overconfident investors might take excessive risks, leading to substantial losses. Recognizing the Dunning-Kruger effect is crucial for personal development. It encourages individuals to seek feedback, engage in continuous learning, and remain humble about their knowledge and skills. By doing so, they can mitigate the risks associated with overconfidence and make more informed decisions. As you reflect on this, consider, how often might your own confidence be a reflection of your awareness, or lack thereof? Recognizing the limits of our knowledge is the first step toward true wisdom. Imagine placing a bet on a losing team. Deep down, you know it was a mistake, but instead of admitting it, you convince yourself the referee was biased, the game was rigged, or the team had an unlucky break. You hold on to any excuse, anything but the truth that you made a bad choice. This is cognitive dissonance, a psychological mechanism that keeps us from feeling the crushing weight of contradiction. When we hold two opposing thoughts, like believing we're smart while making an obviously poor decision, the mental discomfort forces us to resolve the contradiction, not by changing the decision, but by rewriting reality to justify it. It happens in relationships all the time. Someone stays in a toxic relationship, enduring years of mistreatment, yet convinces themselves that love takes work, or that things will get better. The alternative, admitting they wasted years on someone undeserving, is too painful to face. So they stay. They rationalize. They tell themselves they're making the right choice, even as the evidence piles up against them. This mental trap explains why people double down on bad investments, defend failed ideologies, or remain loyal to leaders proven to be corrupt. The more time, effort, or belief we've invested in something, the harder it is to admit we were wrong. Instead, we twist the facts to fit our narrative. If a politician we supported is caught lying, we convince ourselves they were taken out of context. If an expensive purchase turns out to be a waste, we focus on the one small benefit it provided to avoid feeling like a fool. Marketers exploit this bias ruthlessly. Have you ever noticed that once someone buys into a product or service, they become its biggest advocate? Apple, Tesla, and luxury brands don't just sell products, they sell identities. Once a person associates their self-worth with their purchase, they'll defend it to the death. It's not just a phone, it's proof they made the right choice. Religious and political groups use cognitive dissonance too. Cults, for example, demand small commitments at first, maybe just attending a meeting or reading a pamphlet. Once a person is invested, the requests escalate. By the time they're financially supporting the group, they'll justify the extreme beliefs to avoid the shame of admitting they were manipulated. The sunk cost is too high. Imagine a bridge collapsing behind you with every step forward. Turning back means facing the reality of failure. Moving forward means reinforcing a belief even if it's flawed. Most people keep walking. And as you drift into sleep, think about this. How many of your beliefs exist simply because admitting otherwise would be too painful? Imagine you're reading a novel late into the night. The plot thickens, tensions rise, and just as the protagonist approaches a pivotal revelation, the chapter ends. You tell yourself, just one more chapter. But the author has cleverly left you hanging, compelling you to continue. This compelling urge to seek closure on unfinished narratives is rooted in a psychological phenomenon known as the Zeigarnik effect. First identified by psychologist Zeigarnik in the 1920s, the Zeigarnik effect suggests that people remember uncompleted or interrupted tasks better than completed ones. This mental tension caused by unfinished business keeps these tasks at the forefront of our minds, nudging us toward completion. This effect isn't limited to tasks. It extends to storytelling and media consumption. Television producers masterfully employ cliffhangers, suspenseful, unresolved endings, to ensure audiences return for subsequent episodes. By leaving plots unresolved, they tap into our intrinsic need for closure, making it nearly impossible to resist tuning in to find out what happens next. Marketers, too, leverage the Zeigarnik effect to capture consumer attention. Teaser campaigns, unfinished slogans, or ads that pose questions without immediate answers create a sense of curiosity and engagement. This strategy prompts potential customers to seek out more information, drawing them deeper into the marketing funnel. On a personal level, the Zeigarnik effect can impact our daily lives. Unfinished tasks or looming deadlines often intrude upon our thoughts, sometimes affecting sleep quality and increasing stress levels. Conversely, understanding this phenomenon can be harnessed to combat procrastination. Starting a task, even minimally, can create the mental pull needed to see it through to completion. Consider the classic example of a catchy tune that abruptly stops before the final note. The unresolved melody lingers in your mind, compelling you to hum the conclusion or replay the song to achieve mental closure. Similarly, a movie that ends on an ambiguous note can leave audiences pondering and discussing potential outcomes long after leaving the theater. As you drift into sleep, reflect on the open loops in your life, the unfinished projects, unanswered questions, or stories left midway. These lingering thoughts are not mere coincidences but manifestations of the Zeigarnik effect, subtly guiding your mind toward resolution. In essence, our brains are wired to seek completeness. Whether it's finishing a puzzle, solving a mystery, or concluding a narrative, the Zeigarnik effect ensures that unfinished tasks and stories maintain a grip on our attention, driving us toward closure and satisfaction. Imagine you're browsing for a new watch. You spot one with a hefty $5,000 price tag, far beyond your budget. A few shelves down, you see another watch priced at $500. Suddenly, that second option feels like an absolute steal, even though it's still more than you planned to spend. You didn't just find a deal, you were anchored. This is the anchoring effect, a psychological trick that warps our perception of value. Your brain latches on to the first number it sees and uses it as a reference point for everything that follows. Whether it's prices, salaries, or negotiations, that initial figure plants itself in your mind and distorts how you evaluate what comes next. Retailers master this trick. Walk into any high-end store and you'll see the most expensive products displayed first. A $2,000 suit makes a $500 suit look affordable by comparison. But without that first anchor, you might have hesitated at the $500 price tag. The same principle applies online. Think about those original price, $99, now only $39 sales. That $99 anchor makes $39 feel like a steal, even if the item was never worth $99 in the first place. It's not just shopping. The anchoring effect controls negotiations too. In salary discussions, the first number thrown on the table often dictates where the conversation lands. If an employer starts with $50,000, you're now negotiating within that frame, even if the real market value of the job is $70,000. The same happens in real estate. A house listed at $800,000 makes an $750,000 offer seem like a bargain, even if that house was only worth $700,000 to begin with. And this bias isn't just about money. It warps how we judge people, risks, and even reality itself. Studies show that if you ask someone whether Gandhi died before or after age 144, they'll guess a much older age than if you'd asked whether he died before or after age 35. The absurd number lingers in the subconscious, subtly skewing perception. Anchoring is everywhere. You might think you're making rational, independent decisions, but more often than not, your brain is pulling numbers from thin air. Numbers that were carefully placed in front of you by someone who knows exactly how this trick works. So, next time you're about to make a purchase, negotiate a deal, or even form an opinion, ask yourself, was this really my choice? Or did someone anchor my mind before I even had a chance to decide? Imagine hearing a song on the radio for the first time and feeling indifferent or even annoyed by it. Yet, after encountering it repeatedly over days or weeks, you find yourself humming along, perhaps even adding it to your playlist. This phenomenon, where repeated exposure to a stimulus enhances our preference for it, is known as the mere exposure effect. First identified by psychologist Robert Zeigarnik in the 1960s, the mere exposure effect suggests that familiarity breeds liking. Our brains, wired for survival, tend to gravitate toward the familiar, associating it with safety and predictability. This bias operates subconsciously, influencing our preferences without our explicit awareness. In the realm of advertising, this effect is harnessed to shape consumer behavior. Brands strategically place their logos and products across various platforms: billboards, social media, television, not necessarily to convey new information but to increase familiarity. Over time, this repeated exposure can lead consumers to develop a preference for these brands, even if they can't pinpoint why. Politics, too, leverages the power of mere exposure. Candidates aim to get their names and faces in front of the public as much as possible, operating on the principle that familiarity can translate to favorability. Interestingly, this effect can occur regardless of the nature of the exposure. Even negative publicity can increase recognition and, paradoxically, likability. In personal relationships, the mere exposure effect plays a subtle yet significant role. Regularly encountering someone, be it a colleague, neighbor, or fellow commuter, can lead to increased affection or friendship over time. This is partly why proximity often influences the formation of relationships. The more we see someone, the more likely we are to develop positive feelings toward them. However, the mere exposure effect has its limits. Overexposure can lead to boredom or irritation, diminishing the positive feelings initially cultivated. Thus, marketers and politicians must balance repetition with novelty to maintain public interest and favor. As you drift into sleep, consider how many of your preferences, from the brands you trust to the people you enjoy being around, have been quietly shaped by the simple power of repeated exposure. Imagine you're part of a study at a prestigious university. A researcher in a white lab coat instructs you to administer electric shocks to another participant whenever they answer incorrectly. With each mistake, the shock's intensity increases. Despite the recipient's agonized protests, the authoritative presence beside you insists, "Please continue." Unsettlingly, you comply even as the shocks reach dangerous levels. This scenario mirrors the infamous Milgram experiment, conducted in the 1960s by psychologist Stanley Milgram to investigate the extent to which individuals would obey authority figures, even when actions conflicted with personal morals. Milgram's findings were startling. Approximately 65% of participants administered the highest voltage shocks, revealing a profound inclination to follow authority, even to the detriment of others. This propensity isn't confined to experimental settings. Throughout history, individuals have committed reprehensible acts under authoritative directives, often rationalizing their behavior as merely following orders. The power of authority is further amplified by symbols such as uniforms and titles. A uniform can transform an ordinary individual into a figure of authority, compelling obedience and compliance. For instance, studies have shown that people are more likely to follow instructions from someone in a security guard uniform than from a person in plain clothes. Titles like doctor or professor also carry significant weight, leading individuals to accept information or directives without question. This authority bias can be so strong that it overrides personal judgment, causing people to act against their own beliefs or better judgment. Confidence further bolsters authority. When instructions are delivered assertively, individuals are more likely to comply, even if the directives are questionable. This combination of confidence and authoritative symbols creates a powerful influence, often leading to uncritical obedience. Understanding the psychology of authority is crucial, as it sheds light on how societal structures and symbols can shape behavior, sometimes with dire consequences. As you reflect on this, consider how authority figures and symbols influence your daily decisions and actions. Recognizing this influence can empower you to make more conscious choices, ensuring that your actions align with your values and ethics. Imagine bringing home a box of unassembled furniture. As you lay out the pieces and follow the instructions, you invest time and effort into building it. Once completed, that piece isn't just furniture anymore. It's a testament to your labor, making it feel more valuable. This phenomenon, where people assign greater worth to items they assemble themselves, is known as the IKEA effect. This cognitive bias suggests that when individuals contribute personal effort to create or build something, they tend to overvalue the final product, regardless of its objective quality. The term IKEA effect was coined after the Swedish furniture retailer IKEA, which sells products requiring customer assembly, leading buyers to place higher value on these self-assembled items. Companies across various industries leverage this effect to foster brand loyalty. By involving customers in the creation process, businesses enhance engagement and attachment to their products. For instance, meal kit services provide ingredients and recipes for customers to prepare at home, giving them a sense of accomplishment and a stronger connection to the brand. Similarly, customizable products such as personalized clothing or build-your-own software platforms allow consumers to tailor items to their preferences, increasing perceived value and satisfaction. This strategy not only boosts immediate sales but also encourages repeat business, as customers feel a deeper personal connection to products they've had a hand in creating. By understanding and applying the IKEA effect, businesses can enhance customer experiences, leading to increased satisfaction, loyalty, and long-term success. As you drift into sleep, consider how the effort you invest in your possessions shapes your attachment to them. How much of what you value is intertwined with the labor and love you've poured into it? Imagine you're at a poker table holding a mediocre hand. You've already invested a significant amount in the pot, and despite the odds not being in your favor, you decide to keep betting, hoping to turn things around. This scenario illustrates the sunk cost fallacy, a cognitive bias where individuals continue an endeavor based on previously invested resources, time, money, or effort, rather than current benefits or future prospects. This fallacy often manifests in various aspects of life. People may remain in unfulfilling or harmful relationships because they've invested years of emotional energy and shared experiences, making it challenging to walk away. Individuals might stay in unsatisfying jobs, feeling that leaving would waste the years spent building their position, even if better opportunities exist elsewhere. Investors often hold on to declining assets, unwilling to sell at a loss due to the capital already committed, hoping for a turnaround that may never come. This bias stems from a desire to avoid waste and admit failure, leading to continued commitment to losing propositions. Recognizing the sunk cost fallacy is crucial for making rational decisions, allowing individuals to evaluate situations based on present and future value rather than past investments. In essence, the sunk cost fallacy traps individuals in cycles of poor decision-making, driven by past commitments rather than current realities. Imagine sitting in a room with a group of strangers, presented with a simple task: identifying which of 3 lines matches the length of a reference line. The answer is obvious. Yet, as each person before you confidently chooses an incorrect line, doubt creeps in. Do you trust your own perception, or do you conform to the group's unanimous but incorrect choice? This scenario mirrors the Solomon Asch conformity experiments of the 1950s, which revealed a profound truth about human nature: our deep-seated inclination to conform. Asch discovered that individuals would often forsake their own correct perceptions to align with a unanimous group, even when the group's choice was blatantly wrong. This tendency isn't merely about agreeing with others. It's about an inherent desire to belong, to fit in, and to avoid the discomfort of standing alone. Peer pressure operates subtly, guiding our behaviors, beliefs, and decisions without overt coercion. It's the unspoken understanding that deviation from the norm might lead to social exclusion or ridicule. The danger intensifies with groupthink, a psychological phenomenon where the desire for harmony within a group leads to irrational or dysfunctional decision-making. In such scenarios, critical thinking is sacrificed, and dissenting opinions are suppressed, all in the name of consensus. This collective tunnel vision has been implicated in historical fiascos, from flawed business strategies to misguided governmental policies. Our craving for conformity stems from evolutionary roots. Early humans relied on group cohesion for survival. Being part of a tribe meant protection and resources. This ancestral need persists today, manifesting as an instinctual urge to align with those around us. As you drift into sleep, consider this. How often have your choices been a reflection of your true desires, and how often have they been shaped by the invisible hand of conformity? Imagine your mind as a vast control center, orchestrating every decision, belief, and action. You'd like to think you're at the helm, steering with rationality and free will. But what if, beneath this illusion of control, an intricate web of psychological biases subtly directs your every move? Consider the confirmation bias, where we gravitate toward information that aligns with our existing beliefs, dismissing anything to the contrary. This bias can lead us to form echo chambers, reinforcing our viewpoints and isolating us from diverse perspectives. Then there's the availability heuristic, where our judgments are clouded by recent events or readily available information, causing us to overestimate the importance or likelihood of certain occurrences. The Dunning-Kruger effect reveals that those with limited knowledge often overestimate their competence, while experts may doubt their own abilities, leading to a paradox where confidence doesn't always correlate with actual skill. The anchoring bias shows how our decisions are heavily influenced by the first piece of information we encounter, setting a mental benchmark that skews our judgment. These biases, among many others, intertwine to shape our reality, often without our conscious awareness. They influence our choices in everything from daily decisions to significant life events, leading us to question: are we truly in control, or are these unseen forces guiding our paths? Recognizing these biases is the first step toward reclaiming autonomy over our thoughts and actions. By understanding the subtle ways our minds can deceive us, we can strive to make more informed, rational decisions, breaking free from the invisible strings that manipulate our perceptions. So, as you ponder your next choice, big or small, take a moment to reflect. Is it truly yours, or is it the culmination of biases you never knew existed?